welcome to everybody who's joined so far. We are going to give a couple more minutes before everyone, maybe give a couple last minute stragglers a chance to check in, and then we'll get started probably at about 104, 105 with all the information for today. As we start seeing people check in, if you guys are business owners, go ahead and leave your name and what your business is in the comment section. So that way there might be somebody watching that you can connect with, and maybe you guys meet in network with somebody new as you're learning something new today. So definitely a good chance to network. We are going to be giving away also a social media calendar for anyone who comments and likes the video and shares the video. The other option is you can have a free month of a social media calendar, or you can get a free consultation with us to make sure that you get exactly what you need out of the business certification, make sure you're getting the right one. And we also offer you 10% off of your first certification. So you could choose between the social media content, or you can choose between 10% off of your first certification with us. So make sure that you guys like and share, and go ahead and add your name in the comment section, and we'll get started here momentarily. All right, so probably about 30 more seconds, we're going to get started here. And today we're going to be talking about the DBE, the WBE, the MBE, and the SBE, and business certifications. And those are really four of the main ones that you should consider starting with. And we're going to go over how to know which one which one you're a candidate for, and just kind of talk about the markets very briefly and what certifications mean, and things of that nature. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I know that we're going to start at 1 o'clock, and I want to kind of stick to that time. So thank you for joining, those of you who were able to join, and thank you for everybody else who's watching this on YouTube after the live date. I know that 1 p.m. is kind of tough to make on a Wednesday sometimes, so I want you to have access to this. So this will be posted on social media as well, so you can get the information that you need. We are BizCentral USA. We specialize in business certifications for disadvantaged businesses, and that might be minority-owned, women-owned, maybe service-disabled veterans. There's also small business. So there's a whole lot of qualifications that basically label a business as quote-unquote disadvantaged, and we're going to start educating the public on what exactly that means and how that can benefit your business through certifications and contracting. So a little bit about what we do. Obviously, I just touched on what we do from the certification standpoint, but we also have a market intelligence service that allows business owners to do research on the market they're interested in. So for example, let's say I am interested in IT management. Well, how do I know if I want to be in a federal market versus corporate? How do I know if I want to go state level, if I want to go city level, county level, which certifying agency to go through? How do I know what service codes are more profitable than others, that kind of thing? We help you guys navigate through the whole contracting system because it can be kind of complex, and we make sure that you have all the information you need to make the best decision possible for your business. Ultimately, you guys know your business better than us. We're just to kind of help to maximize that and help you build horizontally before you build upwards, which is point number 2. We don't need to be in a rush to build success. We want to make it lucrative horizontally, so that way you have a sound base with multiple streams of income before you build upwards, because you can't build a house on quicksand. Another thing that we do is we do business-to-business sales. We assist companies when they're bidding on contracts, if they need somebody in-house to help their business land a contract, we can definitely assist you with that. We also do SEO, website development, and social media as well, another service that we offer to help you with your brand, establish yourself as a minority-owned or a woman-owned business, as a small business, maybe a couple of different certifications, and kind of help you get the brand that you're looking for as you step into new markets and network. And then the final thing that we're really here for, which I don't think gets touched on enough, is our education-based approach. a lot of times we're going to start doing these Facebook Live events just to generate enough information in the public so that business owners are just aware that this is out there. I think there is a certain degree of business owners that genuinely just don't know that contracting is an option for them, what it can do, and how it can take your business to the next level. We take it very seriously because a lot of people are looking to build wealth not only for themselves but for generations to come. So the best way through that is education and being very genuine and offering up situational and conditional information so that you guys know exactly what's out there for you. So that's just a little bit about what we do and what we bring to the table. Now we're going to kind of dive into business certifications. As you can see here today, we're going to be talking about the DBE, which stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, the Women Business Enterprise, the WBE, the MBE, which is the Minority Business Enterprise, and the Small Business Enterprise, which is the SBE. Now, those are only 4 of about 400 nationwide. I picked these 4 because they usually are very encompassing and they include a lot of demographics, and they're a good place to start if you are considering contracting for your business. So that's why I chose those 4 today as just kind of a let's get started and get familiarized with what's out there. As you can see, there's a federal, state, local, and corporate markets for each one of these certifications. And really what dictates what a certification is going to be successful or not is how the contract is being offered. For example, if I'm looking for someone, using that IT example we used earlier, if I need help with an IT management project, it's actually very important whether I'm offering that federally or if I'm offering that in, say, the state of North Carolina, and that actually dictates what certification I need. So in the example below, you can even see that in different states it's different. You know, for example, a business in Connecticut will have a different certifying agency and application process than somebody in Florida than it would in North Carolina, than it would in Georgia. So that's another reason that it helps to work with somebody who understands those markets and systems very well, is because we know who to apply to and what markets are effective and whether or not, you know, so for some of your businesses, it's going to be DBE is most effective. And that's based on market of how they're being offered. That's based on the service types that you have. That's based on ownership. So basically there's a lot of certifications and you want to make sure that you're choosing the right one. And maybe it's a combination. Maybe you get a DBE and an MBE. So really that's what we do, is we help you kind of sift through all the information and say, wow, like how do I know which one to go to? So that's a little bit about the certifications. Here's a couple of benefits for you. Sometimes people kind of pigeonhole themselves in, I only work with corporate, I only work with federal. Well, if you get certified in both, the MBE and WBE are both in the corporate market while the DBE is for the federal market, for example. So that way, if you have one of both, you're getting access to multiple streams of income, multiple types of contracts, and a larger net almost, so that way you have a higher chance of success. Now, just like investing, I don't put all my money in one investment. I put it in 10 that could all be profitable. Very, very similar in terms of certification, where I want to make sure that I have multiple streams of income, so that way, if a market starts to slow down, or maybe one's taking all of my time, I have other options in terms of funding my business and generating revenue, so I can obviously make money and be more successful, right? Another benefit of the certification is it almost compartmentalizes business owners by certification type, so that you're competing against other business owners of the same demographic. So for example, if you were MBE certified, you're only going to be competing for MBE sponsored contracts against other minority business owners. Now for the WBE, for example, the Women Business Enterprise, you're not going to be competing against any male business owners. It's only for women-owned businesses. So it's a different playing field, because each demographic has different obstacles, has different disadvantages, has different situations. So that way you're only competing against businesses that are considered to be at the same threshold of disadvantaged, quote unquote. Now, another thing that also helps too, that I don't think that business certifications are mentioned enough, is through funding and grants. There are a lot of specialized loans and grant opportunities that are set aside just for MBE, just for WBE, for DBE businesses. And again, so those resources are compartmentalized based on the type of certifications that each business owner has. So not only, again, as we mentioned, you know, you get access to more of government, state and local, and different types of contracts, but you also get access to a larger variety of resources in the form of network and executive training and funding as well, which is obviously very important as well. The other side, I think, of things that I would like to address finally is just that within certain percentages, they have percentage of the budget at the state and federal level to set aside for businesses. So while it's not a guarantee that you're going to land a contract specifically, there's a guarantee that there will always be a certain amount of money set aside for business types. So there's always going to be an opportunity. But if you don't get certified, you won't have access to any of that. So it's very, very important that I get certified with my business. So those are some of the benefits that you guys can kind of expect with the certifications. So now we're going to kind of go into DBE, WBE, MBE, and SBE separately and kind of just highlight some specific regions that I like to educate people on and let them know why, who's a good fit for DBE, for example. What does DBE mean? Same thing for all the other three. So we're going to kind of dive into that and make sure that you guys have a good understanding at a base level of what these certifications are. So this is for DBE, which is a federal and state level certification. Very, very important. If your business is in North Carolina, you need to be DBE certified in North Carolina, right? Now, there are some states, a select few, that will allow you to do what's called a foreign entity, but for the most part, you're going to want to be DBE certified using the state program of where your business is located. If you have multiple locations, you're going to want it to have the headquarters certified in the state that it's located in first, and then you're going to go get the other locations certified as well. But whether you're a big entity with multiple locations or just maybe even a home-based business, you're going to have the main headquarters, the business location, certified first. Now, a couple of requirements, as I'm sure you guys can read along here. Disadvantaged means that the company has to be in total 51% at least owned by a woman or minority or a combination of the two. So two things kind of come to mind. If you are a sole owner and you are a minority or woman status, you're completely fine. You're 100% owned. You do qualify for a DBE. So you've met qualification number one. Now, let's say there are three owners and you each have 33%, but two of the owners are minority or women status. That means that you guys have 66% ownership, 33% non-percent, so you do actually qualify as well. So it's a combination. If you have multiple owners, they'll take whatever ownership you have that you're claiming disadvantaged status for and add those together, and they'll ask questions about all of the disadvantaged owners, just in case there's any of you out there who have multiple owners or are looking for a little more information on it. Is it 51% for one person or multiple? The answer is it's a sum of all of them. Now, they do have a personal net requirement, which is 1.32 million, not including your house. They call that adjusted. They will look at your assets and liabilities, and you don't need to worry about necessarily being too low. It's just making sure that you don't exceed 1.32 million. That's how you qualify. U.S. citizen and green card holders are allowed. And we have this requirement, this must work full-time 40 hours. That's actually more of a requirement for the SBA 8A. It's highly, highly recommended that you show you're very involved in the business, but it doesn't have to be 40 hours only and you're automatically disqualified if you're working 39 and below, right? It's more of a, are you able to complete the work, and are you qualified, and are you actually owning and operating the business in the capacity that you say you are? Now, I think the other side of things too is to talk about turnaround time. The DBE is pretty good for construction, IT, engineering, all of those kind of infrastructure related services, and it usually takes about 60 to 90 days to be approved. However, right now we've seen it be a little bit slower, where it's closer to maybe 90 to 120 days. Another thing that's important is you also have a DBE interview, where they come out and ask you questions about your business and your involvement. So sometimes that can happen on different wavelengths as well. So I usually say 90 to 120 days. We certainly want to have it to you as soon as possible, but the way that it's being processed sometimes is a contributing factor in that turnaround time as well. Other than that, that's a pretty good encompassing view of the DBE. And the reason we started with the DBE is that when you come here and you go to WBE, now we're getting a little bit more specific, right? We said that DBE starts with women-owned and minority-owned businesses. Well, the WBE is for women business enterprises only, which means women owned. So now we've kind of taken that market, maybe cut it into thirds or cut it into half. Now, much like the DBE, we need at least 51% ownership, operated and controlled by a woman business owner. Now, again, very similar, if I have 3 owners and 2 of them are women, 1 is male, as long as those 2 females add up to at least 51%, we'll file underneath both of them for the WBE. Now, very, very similar to what you saw with the DBE, we also accept U.S. citizen and green card holders, and 40 plus hours is recommended. But again, it's not a requirement if you don't have 40 hours. They're not going to ask you to log your hours. It's more of a, are you fully invested? Is this your full-time job? What are your qualifications to complete the work that you say you're doing for the business, right? Obviously, startup businesses are accepted. They prefer 6+ months, but you'll find that, for example, one of the requirements they ask you for is 3 years of business tax returns. And if you don't have that, that doesn't mean you're automatically disqualified. You're looking more for I want to prove the disadvantaged and that we are disadvantaged at the percentage that we say that we are. And you just use personal tax returns instead of tax returns. So I don't want anyone thinking watching this that because I haven't been around for 6 months that I can't apply for the WBE, because that's not the case. What really the case is everything is organized and you're telling the truth about what you say, how you're operated and controlled. There are ways to address discrepancies that you might not have, because not every template is going to apply directly to your business. There will be an on-site visit, very similar to the DBE, just to check out the business operation and see that everything is going on like you claim it was in the application. I will say that the WBE tends to be a little bit faster turnaround time than the DBE. Mainly because it's issued to the state versus the federal. The DBE goes through the federal government, so sometimes there's a turnaround time. The DBE also has more paperwork requirements and a longer application, so I will say that 60 to 90 days is very appropriate for the WBE, whereas the DBE, I feel like it could be between 90 to 120 days. The good news about the WBE is there's no filing fees, as you can say, and the one thing you have to keep in mind is you have to renew it every year through the state, as opposed to the DBE, which has a much different timeline for renewal. Okay, so another subcategory of the DBE, these are not, related, it's just a different compartmentalization of business owners, is the minority business enterprise. This is not gender specific, this is male or female, but the requirement now is 51% minority owned. So it's very realistic that someone could qualify for a DBE, an MBE, and a WBE if she is a minority woman business owner, right? A minority male would get a DBE, an MBE, and an SBE, potentially, which is small business, which we'll talk about in a second. So with those different certifications, you want to consider getting multiple so you're accessing different markets. Very, very similar to the DBE and MBE, the DBE and the WBE. The MBE just needs to be operated by at least 51% minority owned and operated, and again, that could be a combination. It doesn't have to be 51 and 49% between 2 owners. It doesn't have to be 100% for 1 owner. It can be a combination of, if there's 10 owners and 6 of them are minorities that own 60% of the company, we can use all 6 owners. It's just a matter of you have to break that threshold of 51% minority owned, operated, and controlled. Okay, the rest of the requirements are the same as they were for the WBE. The DBE, the difference would be that they had a personal net worth cap. The WBE and MBE do not have that, so you won't need to fill out a personal net worth statement for the sake of verifying your business. They may ask you for one, but they're not going to make it a 100% requirement. You have to be below a certain threshold. It'd be more of a documentation to prove that the assets match up with what you're reporting. The final thing here is, again, the turnaround time is very, very similar to the WBE. I'd say 60 to 90 days is very, very accurate depending on the state. However, right now there are a couple of states that are a little bit quote-unquote behind just because of the volume that they're getting. States like New York. New York City tends to be very, very slow just because, as you can imagine, there's a high volume of applications coming through. And Florida and Michigan both have very extensive in-state application processes, but still I don't think that breaks the 90-day threshold. So 60 to 90 days is appropriate for both the MBE and the WBE. And then again, final thing, you don't need to worry about a filing fee, which is awesome. So the final one we're going to talk about is the SBE. Now, this is both race and gender neutral. So of course, you can be a women-owned business, you can be a minority-owned business, and you can be a white male, which we haven't talked about, white male-owned business that applies for this as well. The only thing that's changing here is that these certifications are not better or worse. It's just how contracts are being offered. You might have, certain construction projects being offered as DBE, but within the state or county, they might be saying, we need an SBE business because they're being mandated that you have to provide this much business for SBE specifically. So the opportunities are still out there for SBE businesses, just like they're out there for MBE and WBE businesses and DBE as well. What really matters is market saturation of the type of contract being offered, as well as how lucrative it is, how long the timeline is, and service type, and the way that they're being offered are the two main categories that you need to be concerned with, right? So again, this is where that market analysis comes in. How do I know if I qualify for all four of these, which one to do? Well, we need to know service type, we need to know your goals, we need to know your access to resources, how close you are to the area, and we also need to know what SBE contracts are being offered in that area, what MBE, what WBE, what DBE, and then we give you that information and say, these are the four certifications, and you can see the percentages for yourself to make your decision. So again, very similar to the MBE and WBE, minus the requirement of the owner. We don't really have a filing fee. Same requirement in terms of 60 to 90 days to be approved. All of the other requirements are pretty much the same. So view this as a very, very similar application to the MBE and WBE. The only thing that's changing is we are now allowing for white male business owners to apply in addition to women-owned and minority-owned businesses. And all of these also include the DBE as well, and the SBE also include service disabled or physical disability as well as a demographic. So far, if there is a physically disabled or a service disabled veteran, there's a federal certification for it, but you can also get qualified for the SBE and the DBE as well. So we certainly want to include that as a part of our recommendation. So basically to date, we've covered the DBE, the MBE, the WBE, and the SBE. And really, as you guys can see, that it gets pretty complicated in terms of how do I know which one I'm supposed to do? How do I know who I'm supposed to apply to? How do I know what documents are required? How do I organize them? What happens if I don't have some of these documents? So what ends up happening is we actually offer free 30-minute consultations. You guys can go to bizcentralusa.com, and right at the home screen, you can say get certified, and you can ask what certifications do I qualify for? And we'll bring you to a screen that looks like this. And it'll have you answer questions, and it'll say, are you women-owned, minority-owned? Are you, how big is your company? How long have you been around for? What state are you located? There's a lot of vetting questions, and what that does, that comes directly to us. And then we reach out to you and we schedule you for a free 30-minute consultation, because sometimes it can get tricky. If I'm a construction company, my options are going to be a lot different than if I'm going to be a IT company, for example, or if I'm a woman-owned financial company. Maybe I do investing, maybe I do accounting, maybe I do some sort of wealth management systems, right? Maybe I own a restaurant. Those are all going to be 3 or 4 different approaches, and maybe one certification will apply for one of those, but it won't apply for others. So the most important thing is just to make sure you guys capitalize on the free 30-minute consultation. And as we continue to do these Facebook Lives events, we're giving those away free of charge so you guys can educate yourselves on the world of contracting, understand what you can do for yourself. So that being said, our goal is to usually keep these pretty short so people have time to get back to their busy days and they can go back and rewatch these. We will have this video posted on Facebook. Instagram will have little snippets for you guys and what we think are key points. and we'll have them on YouTube and LinkedIn as well, so you guys can check them out and rewatch them. But for all of you who have been able to tune into the Facebook Live, thank you so much for coming. And for everybody else as well who's able to watch this after the fact, hopefully this helps. My name is Matt. I'm the COO of BizCentral USA. You can reach me at 202-800-5340. And you can also email me, or you can go to the bizcentralusa.com and you'll have access to request a contact, which is the best way to get in contact for us. So hope you guys all enjoy your day. Thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next week for our next Facebook Live event. Thanks.